What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show, and today we are back in my kitchen, but we're doing something fun. I picked up the internet's least favorite Marshall amplifier. Everybody says that it's awful. Everybody says don't get it because it's not a real Marshall amp, but I got one and I really like it, and today we're going to talk about it. Now, before I show you what amp I did pick up, I do want to show you the other ones that I have floating around because I have acquired a handful of different amplifiers. I've got a bass amp that is irrelevant for this video, but I did start out when I was first learning to play guitar on this Blackstar ID Core 10 watt amplifier. This thing is basically everything a beginner could want. You turn it on and it makes noise. It's a little bit lacking in terms of actual tone shaping, given that the only EQ is ISF, which allows you to sweep from a British to an American sound. And then you have gain. There you go. You have a couple of different amplifiers in here, from warm, clean, bright, clean, crunch, super crunch, and then 2 overdrive channels to choose from. When I was learning how to play, I basically left it on overdrive 1 because it just sounds the best with gain at about 6. It has 4 types of reverb, modulation, and delay, which is pretty cool, with a manual tap tempo on here. Again, pretty cool. This thing is super duper simple, but it lacked a lot of the tone shaping abilities, and when you start putting pedals in front of it, it sort of falls apart. So I wanted something a little bit better, a little bit beefier, and in doing my research, everybody said, pick up a Boss Katana. So that's exactly what I did. I bought a Boss Katana Mark II 100 watt amplifier, and I have been playing this thing for the better part of a year now, I believe. This thing has been really nice to learn on, more so the different things that an amplifier does. There's a lot going on in terms of the actual tone shaping here, as well as a bunch of the effects that are built in, which is what the Katana is really known for. But having this thing has taught me a lot about how amplifiers work. Now, I did end up finding this thing a little daunting, shall we say. There is so much stuff in this amplifier that it's easy to get lost in all of the menus and all of the different effects that you can put in here and all the knobs and so forth and so on. This thing it's for a specific person, and that person is not me. The kind of music I usually play is metal, and I do not like the way that the distortion sounds in this amplifier. It just doesn't do it for me. So, as a result, I ran out and bought an amp from a company that's known for metal distortion, and oh my god, it's so heavy. Oh God. This is a Marshall Valvestate VS100H, and it's a beast. This thing is, it's a Marshall, man. It looks so freaking cool, and I picked it up for $130 used. For those of you who don't know what's going on with the Valvestate, these came out in the 90s as a way to allow people to get into Marshalls without having to fork over all of the money you need for a valve head and without going entirely solid state. So what we have in here is we have a tube preamp and a solid state power amp, which is kind of nice. And man alive, is this thing super, super cool to play with. And man, it sounds really cool. So I figured what we do today is we are going to shoot out all 3 of these amplifiers, and we're gonna see how they sound back to back to back. Let's dive right in. I just got done cutting and checking out the audio samples from these amps, and it was a lot more instructive than I thought it was going to be, hearing them go back to back to back to back. The main thing that I noticed is that this amp has no low end whatsoever, and I actually cranked the low end. I went back and turned the bass way the heck up at the amp, and it doesn't have the low end to compete with either this or this amp here, which is a bit of a bummer. I'm wondering if getting a different speaker might help, but honestly, for the money, I would rather just continue to use this thing right here. Speaking of the Marshall though, there are some issues with the way that I have it set up. Personally, I think that there's way too much low end on this. I'm currently working on trying to learn how to dial out some of the fizzier high end that this amp is really known for, and that's why the bass was cranked so hard. But I think I'm overcompensating a little bit. I also noticed that the note separation is a little bit tougher on this amp. It's got a lot less definition. It chugs really well, but when you're trying to get some really more melodic stuff going with the distortion, it all sorts to jumbles together. The ID core, for being the cheapest amp here and one of the weakest in terms of actual tone shaping, was actually really surprising. The main thing that I enjoyed about it is just how easy it was to use. You just turn it on and it starts making good sounds. Today was actually the first time I ran my tube screamer into the front of this to see if boosting the mids did something cool, and it did. I think this amp is held back by how small the speaker is. The tone it's getting isn't as developed. It's not as well-rounded as something like I'm getting out of here. But, you know, for the price, and you can still go buy these new, gotta give the ID core a thumbs up. In terms of my rating, if I'm gonna rate these amps, it's gonna go 1, 2, 3. And in fact, I do think I am gonna end up selling this Boss Katana right here. It's just, I'm not gonna be plugging this thing in anymore. In the room, I'm really enjoying the Marshall sound. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. This one was a ton of fun to put together. And I am gonna be doing a little bit of a restoration on this, which I will show you. And then, hopefully, fingers crossed, I've got 2 projects that I'm working on guitar-wise. I got that MH50, which we will be returning to probably in the next video, maybe 2 videos from now. And then I've got that Jackson that I was playing today. That is going to get a massive overhaul, but that's going to be a little bit more expensive. So we're going to be waiting on that one. However, I do have some really cool pickups that are going in there. Again, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.